Hello, my name is Katie and welcome to my video. Today I wanted to talk about some October releases that I'm kind of excited for. I don't know how much people actually like these types of videos, but I like these types of videos and I had so much fun just doing the research for it, so we're gonna do it anyway. I have kind of a long list here. I have them sorted by thrillers, young adult, children, and then just miscellaneous adult. I'm going to start with thrillers. I have kind of an issue with thrillers, and that is I don't personally love to read the synopsis, but I feel like if I don't give you an idea of what it's about, then what's the point in talking about it? So I think I'm going to suck it up. And I'm just going to read the synopsis anyway, and hopefully there's nothing in there that's a spoiler. If you have thoughts about this particular issue, let me know, and that may adjust how I approach it next time. For thrillers, the first one I saw that sparked my interest was She Lies Close by Sharon Doering. It comes out October 13th. A compulsive debut thriller about motherhood, obsession, and how far we'd go to protect the ones we love. 5-year-old Ava Boone has been missing for 6 months. There have been no leads, no arrests, no witnesses. The only suspect was quiet, middle-aged Leland Ernest. And Grace Wright has just bought the house next door. Recently divorced, Grace uprooted her 2 small children to start again and hopes the move will reset her crippling insomnia. But now she understands the bargain price for her beautiful new house. With whispered neighborhood gossip and increasingly sleepless nights, Grace develops a fierce obsession with Leland and the safety of her children. Could she really be living next door to a child kidnapper, a murderer? With reality and dream blurring more each day, Grace desperately pursues the truth, following Ava's family, demanding answers from the police, and then a body is discovered. I like reading debuts from new thriller authors. I always find that interesting because I think frequently that's where you find the new concepts, the new twists, things of that nature. And I always find it really fascinating when insomnia plays a role, where it's like you're not sure what's real and what's not anymore because you haven't slept in so long. I much prefer that to the stereotypical drunk mother who can't tell reality from what's in her head because of the alcohol. This feels less icky to me. The next one I think is actually classified as a horror. There's probably a couple on here that are classified as horror. I did my best to split them up in a way that made sense. I could have just gone by day they release, but since I'm all over the place with genres, I thought maybe it'd be better just to split them up by book type. I don't know. Next is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. It comes out October 6th. A young woman discovers a strange portal in her uncle's house, leading to madness and terror in this gripping new novel from the author of The Twisted Ones. Pray They Are Hungry. Kara finds the words in the mysterious bunker that she's discovered behind a hole in the wall of her uncle's house. Freshly divorced and living back at home, Kara now becomes obsessed with these cryptic words and starts exploring this peculiar area, only to discover that it holds portals to countless alternate realities. But these places are haunted by creatures that seem to hear thoughts, and the more one fears them, the stronger they become. Yeah, I need this book. I love, obsession with weirdness, and then the alternate reality dimension of this really, really speaks to me. Next, I think, is another horror. It's Whiteland by Rosie Cranie-Higgs. It comes out October 15th. In a lonely Swiss mountain village, Kira's holiday erupts. It's winter, it's eerie, and out in the woods, something embeds its claws into her sister. When Romy returns, she's different. She's violent, inhuman, and by rights should be dead. But all their parents care about is that she's still alive. That is, until their parents disappear. In the otherworldly forest, Kira starts to pry, but secrets like to be kept. Alongside sarcastic Scotsman Callum, Kira stumbles upon the folkloric world of Whiteland, eating all she knows. Something has changed. It's all but imperceptible, but present nonetheless, a change in the air or a shift in her perceptions. She stills, listening, sensing. If Kira runs away, she'll be safe. If she doesn't, her family might not survive. In the end, there's no mercy in revenge. Just weird. I like weird books. It sounds like it's going to be one of those that, like, your mind can't fully comprehend what's going on. And I know a lot of people find that frustrating, but I find it fascinating. They Never Learn by Layne Fargo. It comes out October 13th. This one feels kind of like a dark academia book, which I think is cool. Scarlett Clark is an exceptional English professor, but she's even better at getting away with murder. Every year she searches for the worst man at Goodman University and plots his well-deserved demise. Thanks to her meticulous planning, she's avoided drawing attention to herself. But as she's preparing for her biggest kill yet, the school starts probing into the growing body count on campus. Determined to keep her enemies close, Scarlett insinuates herself into the investigation and charms the woman in charge, Dr. Mina Pierce. Everything's going according to her master plan until she loses control with her latest victim, putting her secret life at risk of exposure. Meanwhile, Gorman student Carly Schiller is just trying to survive her freshman year. Finally free of her emotionally abusive father, all Carly wants is to focus on her studies and fade into the background. Her new roommate has other ideas. Allison Hadley is cool and confident, everything Carly wishes she could be, and the two girls quickly form an intense friendship. So when Allison is sexually assaulted at a party, Carly becomes obsessed with making the attacker pay and turning her fantasies about revenge into reality. I really like academic settings. This one feels like it could be really interesting, but honestly the synopsis kind of makes it sound like there's two different stories being told in one book, and that, I don't know, when an author takes on too much in one novel, it tends to feel like rushed and like each plot line isn't thoroughly thought out. So I'll be interested to see if maybe the freshman starts working with the professor or something along those lines. I think that would kind of make the story connect instead of just feeling like two disconnected tales. Also on October 13th, we have Goodnight Beautiful by Aimee Molloy. First off, I hate that title. I might do a video on book titles that I hate because I have a few of them. But that's irrelevant. Newlyweds Sam Statler and Annie Potter are head over heels and excited to say goodbye to New York and start a life together in Sam's sleepy hometown in upstate New York. Or, it turns out, a life where Annie spends most of her time alone while Sam, her therapist husband, works long hours in his downstairs office tending to the egos of his mostly female clients. Little does Sam know that through a vent in his ceiling, every word of his sessions can be heard from the room upstairs. The pharmacist's wife, contemplating a divorce, the well-known painter whose boyfriend doesn't satisfy her in bed. Who could resist listening? Everything is fine until the French girl in the green Mini Cooper shows up and Sam decides to go to work and not come home, throwing a wrench into Sam and Annie's happily ever after. This sounds cool because I like books that have, like, secrets. And I feel like Annie eavesdropping on all the secrets could be really interesting. The last thriller on this list is The Girl in the Mirror by Rose Carlyle, and it comes out October 13th. October 13th is going to be a big day for releases, I think. Twin sisters Iris and Summer are startlingly alike, but beyond what the eye can see lies a darkness that sets them apart. Cynical and insecure, Iris has long been envious of Summer's seemingly never-ending good fortune, including her perfect husband, Adam. Called to Thailand to help her sister sail the family yacht to the Seychelles, Iris nurtures her own secret hopes for what might happen on the journey. But when she unexpectedly finds herself alone in the middle of the Indian Ocean, everything changes. When she makes it to land, Iris allows herself to be swept up by Adam, who assumes that she is Summer. Iris recklessly goes along with his mistake. Not only does she finally have the golden life she's always envied, with her sister gone, she's one step closer to the $100 million inheritance left by her manipulative father. All Iris has to do is be the first of his 7 children to produce an heir. Iris's new life lurches between glamorous dream and paranoid nightmare. On the edge of being exposed, how far will she go to ensure no one discovers the truth? And just what did happen to Summer on the yacht? Only Iris knows. This one I might pick up, like, pretty immediately. I love any book that has like twins, especially thrillers with twins, usually things get very weird. Alright, let's get into some young adults. On October 6th, we have Eventide by Sarah Goodman. Wheeler, Arkansas, 1907. When their father descends into madness after the death of their mother, Verity Pruitt and her little sister Lila find themselves on an orphan train to rural Arkansas. In Wheeler, 11-year-old Lila is quickly adopted, but 17-year-old Verity is not. Desperate to stay close to her sister, Verity indentures herself as a farmhand, but even charming farm boy Abel Ashley can't completely distract her from the sense that something is not quite right in this little town. Strange local superstitions abound, especially about the eerie old well at the center of the forest. The woods play tricks, unleashing heavy fog and bone-chilling cold, and sometimes visions of things that aren't there. But for Verity, perhaps most unsettling of all is the revelation that her own parents have a scandalous history in this very town. And as she tries to unearth the past, sinister secrets come with it, secrets that some will go to violent lengths to protect. That one I definitely want to pick up. It's historical fiction, which I'm a big fan of. And on top of that, it's historical fiction that surrounds a secret, which is another thing that I love. It also has like a sister relationship that's clearly important to our lead character, and that always hits me in the feels because I have sisters. Next we have a retelling called The Puppetmaster's Apprentice by Lisa DeSelm. It comes out October 13th. Pinocchio meets Frankenstein in this dark fairy tale retelling where a young girl is commissioned to build an assassin for a dark-hearted tyrant. Impressed by the work of the Puppetmaster and his apprentice, Tavia's ruler, the Margrave, has ordered dozens of life-size marionette soldiers to be sent to Wolfspire Hall. When the orders for more soldiers come in with increasingly urgent deadlines, the Puppetmaster's health suffers, and Pirouette, his daughter and protege, is left to build in his stead. But there is something far more twisted brewing at Wolfspire. The Margrave's son wants Pirouette to create an assassin, and he wants her to give it life. With Tavia teetering on the brink of war and her father dying in the dungeons, Pirouette has no choice but to accept. Racing against the rise of the next blue moon, the magic that will bring her creations to life, she can't help but wonder, is she making a masterpiece or a monster? I always tend to be drawn to retellings. I don't know if this is necessarily one that I'm going to want to pick up anytime soon. But Pinocchio meets Frankenstein is kind of an interesting mix, so I thought it'd be fun to talk about. Next we have Beyond the Ruby Veil by Mara Fitzgerald. It comes out October 13th. Emanuela Ragno always gets what she wants. With her daring mind and socialite schemes, she refuses to be the demure young lady everyone wants her to be. In her most ambitious move yet, she's about to marry Alessandro Morandi, her childhood best friend and the heir to the wealthiest house in Ochia? Something like that. Emanuela doesn't care that she and her groom are both gay because she doesn't want a love match. She wants power, and through Alessandro she'll have it all. But Emanuela has a secret that could shatter her plans. In the city of Ochia, the only source of water is the water Crea? God, these words. A mysterious being who uses magic to make water from blood. When their first bruise-like omen appears on their skin, all Ochians must surrender themselves to the water Crea to be drained of life. Everyone throughout history has given themselves up for the greater good. Everyone except Emanuela. She's kept the tiny omen on her hip out of sight for years. When the water Crea exposes Emanuela during her wedding ceremony and takes her to be sacrificed, Emanuela fights back and kills her. Now Ochia has no one to make their water and no idea how to get more. In a race against time, Emanuela and Alessandro must travel through the mysterious blood-red veil that surrounds their city to uncover the secrets of the water Crea's magic and find a way to save their people, no matter what it takes. That one sounds different. I don't know that I've ever read a book in which they have to make water out of blood. Like, I've read similar themes, I guess, but in specific, this one just seems different. And Emanuela seems like one of those like morally gray characters, which I appreciate. I get sick of like the good girl who always does things right, and even when people think she's wrong, we know she's actually right. This one, I think, is young adult, because it follows like a teenager, but I couldn't find much like definitively saying YA on it anywhere. But that is Daughters of Jubilation by Carolee Cothron. It comes out October 13th. In the Jim Crow South, white supremacy reigns and tensions are high, but Eveline DeSelm has other things to worry about. She has 2 little sisters to look after, an overworked single mother, and a longtime crush who is finally making a move. On top of all that, Evie's magic abilities are growing stronger by the day. Her family calls it Jubilation, a gift passed down from generations of black women since the time of slavery. And as Evie's talents awaken, something dark comes loose and threatens to resurface. And when the demons of Evie's past finally shake free, she must embrace her mighty lineage and summon the power that lies within her. That could be interesting. It's kind of like historical fantasy, I guess, which I always think is kind of cool. Next we have A Golden Fury by Samantha Cohoe. It comes out October 13th. Thea Hope longs to be an alchemist out of the shadow of her famous mother. The 2 of them are close to creating the legendary Philosopher's Stone, whose properties include immortality and can turn any metal into gold. But just when the promise of the stone's riches is in their grasp, Thea's mother destroys the stone in a sudden fit of violent madness. While combing through her mother's notes, Thea learns that there's a curse on the stone that causes anyone who tries to make it to lose their sanity. With the threat of the French Revolution looming, Thea is sent to Oxford for her safety, to live with the father who doesn't know she exists. But in Oxford, there are alchemists after the stone who don't believe Thea's warning about the curse. Instead, they'll stop at nothing to steal Thea's knowledge of how to create the stone. But Thea can only run for so long, and soon she will have to choose: create the stone and sacrifice her sanity, or let the people she loves die. This wouldn't be the first book I've read that has a similar Philosopher's Stone type thing at the center of it. Sometimes it's finding immortality, sometimes it's turning anything into gold. But this one sounds a little bit different in that it has the element of madness attached to it, and then, you know, there's her struggle with determining what she's going to do. If she can sacrifice herself, basically, to save people she loves. So that could be interesting. Next we have Hush by Dylan Farrow. It comes out October 6th. In the land of Montaigne, language is literal magic to the select few who possess the gift of telling. This power is reserved for the bards, and as everyone knows, the bards have almost always been men. 17-year-old Shay has lived her entire life in awe of the bards and afraid of the blot, a deadly disease spread by ink, which took the life of her younger brother 5 years ago. Ever since, Shay fears she's cursed, but when tragedy strikes again and her mother is found murdered with a golden dagger, a weapon used only by the bards, Shay is forced to act. With a heart set on justice, Shay journeys to High House in search of answers. But when the kind, fatherly Cathal, the High Lord of Montaigne, makes Shay an undeniable offer to stay and train as a bard, Shay can't refuse. Through this twisty tale, Shay endures backbreaking training by a ruthless female bard, tentative and highly forbidden feelings for a male bard with a dark past, and a castle filled with dangerous illusions bent on keeping its secrets buried. But sometimes the truth is closer than we think. We just have to learn to listen. This is probably the most exciting book for me on this section of the new release list. The idea of like language being magic, like literal magic, is really cool because I think language is a magic of its own if you think about it. Like, you can take a finite number of sounds and syllables and characters, and you can create any thought, any feeling, any idea out of them. And to me that is magical. I have 2 children's books. I have Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, 100 Immigrant Women Who Changed the World by Layne. I have the original Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, and I've been meaning to buy Volume 2. So I think I'll probably pick up Volume 2 and this volume at the same time. That comes out October 13th. And then we have The Most Beautiful Thing by Carlyle. It comes out October 6th. It's drawn from the author's childhood experiences as a Hmong refugee. This moving picture book portrays a family with a great deal of love and little money. Weaving together Kalia's story with that of her beloved grandmother, the book moves from the jungles of Laos to the family's early years in the United States. When Kalia becomes unhappy about having to do without and decides she wants braces to improve her smile, it is her grandmother, a woman who has just one tooth in her mouth, who helps her see that true beauty is found with those we love most. And it's illustrated, which you would expect for a children's picture book. I don't frequently buy children's books because I don't have kids, but this sounds gorgeous and absolutely lovely, and I might pick it up. Now we're into the Miscellaneous Adult section. This is kind of a mix of sci-fi, historical fiction. It's all over the place. The first is one of two books that I'm particularly excited about for this month, and that is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Haro. It comes out October 13th. In 1893, there's no such thing as witches. There used to be, in the wild, dark days before the burnings began. But now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must find it at the ballot box. But when the Eastwood sisters, James Juniper, Agnes Amaranth, and Beatrice Belladonna, join the suffragists of New Salem, they begin to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. Stalked by shadows and sickness, hunted by forces who will not suffer a witch to vote, and perhaps not even to live, the sisters will need to delve into the oldest magics, draw new alliances, and heal the bond between them if they want to survive. There's no such thing as witches, but there will be. That just sounds amazing. I have to get that. Plus, I loved her other book, The 10,000 Doors of January. The magicalness, is that a word? It is now. The magicalness of it was just beautiful, and I still think about it. And I read it a year and a half ago. It's been a bit. Coming out on October 27th, we have Fortune Favors the Dead by Stephen Spotswood. It's 1942, and Will Parker, is a scrappy circus runaway whose knife-throwing skills have just saved the life of New York's best and most unorthodox private investigator, Lillian Pentecost. When the dapper detective summons Will a few days later, she doesn't expect to be offered a life-changing proposition. Lillian's multiple sclerosis means she can't keep up with her old caseload alone, so she wants to hire Will to be her right-hand woman. In return, Will receive a salary, room and board, and training in Lillian's very particular art of investigation. 3 years later, Will and Lillian are on the Collins case. Abigail Collins was found bludgeoned to death with a crystal ball following a big boozy Halloween party at her home. Her body slumped in the same chair where her steel magnate husband shot himself the year before. With rumors flying that Abigail was bumped off by the vengeful spirit of her husband, who else could have gotten inside the locked room? The family has tasked the detectives with finding answers where the police have failed. But that's easier said than done in a case that involves messages from the dead, a seductive spiritualist, and Becca Collins, the beautiful daughter of the deceased, who Will quickly starts falling for. When Will and Becca's relationship dances beyond the professional, Will finds herself in dangerous territory and discovers she may have become the murderer's next target. There are so many things to love in that synopsis, and I think it would be a really great read. Ooh, this one I'm excited about, and I haven't even read the series that this is a companion to. Coming out October 6th, Wolf Hall Companion by Lauren McKay. What is the true story behind the blockbuster Wolf Hall trilogy and of Thomas Cromwell, its principal protagonist? This companion guide concisely illuminates both Cromwell's life and Tudor history, covering the book's key court and political characters. It looks at everyone from Cromwell to Anne Boleyn, Thomas Cranmer to Jane Seymour, Henry VIII to Thomas Howard, and Cardinal Wolsey to Richard Fox, as well as the most significant sites, including Hampton Court, Cromwell's home, Austin Friars, and of course, Wolf Hall. Along with the full history of these people and places, there's insight into Hilary Mantle's individual interpretation. Family trees, plans of the Tower of London, and beautiful woodcut portraits accompany the text, along with incisive features on various aspects of Tudor society, from the structure of government and royal hunting to the rules of courtly love and Tudor executions. This beautiful and insightful book enriches the reading of Mantle's work. So now I have to read the original trilogy, and then I have to read this. I wonder, though, if I could just get away with just reading the companion. I don't know. We'll see. The original trilogy sounds excellent as well. Next is one that I'm not totally certain I want to read. It's historical fiction, which I like. However, it's got some strange aspects to it. It's called Reviving the Hawthorne Sisters by Emily Carpenter, and it comes out October 20th. Dove Jared was a renowned evangelist and faith healer. Only her granddaughter, Eve Candler, knows that Dove was a con artist. In the 8 years since Dove's death, Eve has maintained a Dove's Charitable Foundation and her lies. But just as a documentary team wraps up a shoot about the miracle worker, Eve is assaulted by a vengeful stranger intent on exposing what could be Dove's darkest secret: murder. Tuscaloosa, 1934. A wily young orphan escapes the psychiatric hospital where she was born. When she joins the itinerant inspirational duo, the Hawthorne Sisters, the road ahead is one of stirring new possibilities, and with an obsessive predator on her trail, one of untold dangers. For a young girl to survive, desperate choices must be made. Now, to protect her family, Eve will join forces with the investigative filmmaker and one of Dove's friends, risking everything to unravel the truth behind the accusations against her grandmother. But will the truth set her free or set her world on fire? So much of this is things I love. It's historical fiction, it's surrounding a family secret, but I think the faith healer bit is a little bit odd. It doesn't sound like it plays a huge role, though, so we'll see. Next we have Snow by John Banville. This comes out October 13th. Detective Inspector St. John Strafford has been summoned to County Wexford to investigate a murder. A parish priest has been found dead in Ballyglass House, the family seat of the aristocratic, secretive Osborne family. The year is 1957, and the Catholic Church rules Ireland with an iron fist. Strafford, flinty, visibly Protestant, and determined to identify the murderer, faces obstruction at every turn, from the heavily accumulating snow to the culture of silence in this tight-knit community. As he delves further, he learns the Osbornes are not at all what they seem. And when his own deputy goes missing, Strafford must work to unravel the ever-expanding mystery before the community's secrets, like the snowfall itself, threatens to obliterate everything. Again, historical fiction, there's a secret. Sounds cool. I also like it. Sounds like it might be kind of like an isolationist type situation, because like the snow seems like it's cutting them off from other people, and that's always kind of cool. This next one is the second book on this list that I'm extremely anxious to get my hands on, and that is The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. It comes out October 6th. If you haven't read The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, oh my god, you need to. It was so good. It was a murder mystery, but it was unlike any murder mystery I've ever read before, because we're in a circumstance where the main character that we're following, like every day they wake up in a new body and they don't know who this person is. So first they have to figure out whose body they're in and what they're supposed to learn about the murder from being in this person's body. Absolutely fascinating. Anyway, The Devil in the Dark Water. It's 1930. Oh, wow, that was wrong. It's 1634, and Samuel Pepys, the world's greatest detective, is being transported to Amsterdam to be executed for a crime he may or may not have committed. Traveling with him is his loyal bodyguard, Arent Hayes, who is determined to prove his friend innocent. But no sooner are they out to sea than devilry begins to blight the voyage. A twice-dead leper stalks the decks. Strange symbols appear on the sails. Livestock is slaughtered. And then 3 passengers are marked for death, including Samuel. Could a demon be responsible for their misfortunes? With Pepys imprisoned, only Arent can solve a mystery that connects every passenger on board. A mystery that stretches back into their past and now threatens to sink the ship, killing everybody on board. Oh, I'm so excited. It has like that weird factor that his other book had. But then it's also like high stakes because if the ship sinks, everybody dies. So excited for that. Next we have The Wrong Kind of Woman by Sarah McCraw Crow, comes out October 6th. In late 1970, Oliver Demaris drops dead in his front yard while hanging Christmas lights. In the year that follows, his widow, Virginia, struggles to find her place on the campus of the elite New Hampshire Men's College where Oliver was a professor. While Virginia had always shared her husband's prejudices against the 4 outspoken, never-married women on the faculty, dubbed the Gang of Four by their male counterparts, she now finds herself depending on them, even joining their work to bring the women's movement to Clarendon College. Soon, though, reports of violent protests across the country reach this sleepy New England town, stirring tensions between the fraternal establishments of Clarendon and those calling for change. As authorities attempt to tamp down radical elements, Virginia must decide whether she's willing to put herself and her family at risk for a cause that had never felt like her own. This sounds great. I wish more books were written in the 1960s, 1970s era. So I'm probably most definitely picking that up. Oh, this one I'm probably picking up too. God, this is bad. People of Abandoned Character by Claire Whitfield. It comes out October 1st. London, 1888. Susanna rushes into marriage to a young and wealthy surgeon. After a passionate honeymoon, she returns home with her new husband wrapped around her little finger. But then everything changes. Thomas's behavior becomes increasingly volatile and violent. He stays out all night, returning home bloodied and full of secrets. The gentle caresses she enjoyed on her wedding night are now just a honeyed memory. When the first woman is murdered in Whitechapel, Susanna's interest is piqued. But as she follows the reports of the ongoing hunt for the killer, her mind takes her down the darkest path imaginable. Every time Thomas stays out late, another victim is found dead. Is it coincidence? Or is her husband the man they call Jack the Ripper? Now, on the one hand, I've read far too many, Jack the Ripper stories. On the other hand, they're usually pretty interesting. Next, we have Plain Bad Heroines by Emily H. Danforth that comes out on October 20th. Our story begins in 1902 at the Brookhant School for Girls. Flo and Clara, 2 impressionable students, are obsessed with each other and with a daring young writer named Mary McLean, the author of a scandalous best-selling memoir. To show their devotion to Mary, the girls establish their own private club and call it the Plain Bad Heroine Society. They meet in secret in a nearby apple orchard, the setting of their wildest happiness, and ultimately of their macabre deaths. This is where their bodies are later discovered with a copy of Mary's book splayed beside them, the victims of a swarm of stinging, angry yellowjackets. Less than 5 years later, the Brookhant School for Girls closes its door forever, but not before 3 more people die mysteriously on the property, each in a most troubling way. Over a century later, the now abandoned and crumbling Brookhants is back in the news when wonderkind writer Merritt Emmons publishes a breakout book celebrating the queer feminist history surrounding the haunted and cursed Gilded Age institution. Her best-selling book inspires a controversial horror film adaptation starring celebrity actor and lesbian it-girl Harper Harper, playing the ill-fated heroine Flo opposite B-list actress and former child star Audrey Wells as Clara. But as Brookhants opens its gates once again and our 3 modern heroines arrive on set to begin filming, past and present become grimly entangled, or perhaps just grimly exploited, and soon it's impossible to tell where the curse leaves off and Hollywood begins. This sounds like one of those books that I love, where the house, or in this case the school, is like a main character. It's a driving force behind the story. And I really like things where stuff happened in the past and now it's happening again in the future. So this one I really am looking forward to. It's one that I don't really want to watch reviews on it first because I feel like a lot of people aren't really going to get on with it. And sometimes that deters me from buying books, even though I know that a lot of the books I have loved, a lot of people don't like. Oh, this one's a little different. The Midnight Circus by Jane Yolen. It comes out October 1st. Welcome to the Midnight Circus, and watch your step. The dark imaginings of fantasy icon Jane Yolen are not for the faint of heart. In these 16 brilliantly unnerving tales and poems, Central Park becomes a carnival where you can, but probably shouldn't, transform into a wild beast. The Red Sea will be deadly to cross due to a plague of voracious angels. Meanwhile, the South Pole is no place for even a good man, regardless of whether he is living or dead. Wicked, solemn, and chilling, the circus is ready for your visit. Just don't arrive late. I don't typically like short stories, and poetry is not really my thing. However, this sounds amazing. This next book is The Perfect Nine, the Epic of Gikuyu and Mumbai by, hold on, I pulled up how to say the author's name. Ngugi Wathiongo. I tried. It comes out October 8th. Gikuyu and Mumbai settled on the peaceful and bounteous foot of Mount Kenya after fleeing war and hunger. When 99 suitors arrive on their land seeking to marry their famously beautiful daughters called the Perfect Nine, the parents ask their daughters to choose for themselves, but to choose wisely. First, the young women must embark on a treacherous quest with the suitors to find a magical cure for their youngest sister, Warigia, who cannot walk. As they journey up the mountain, the number of suitors diminishes, and the sisters put their sharp minds and bold hearts to the test, conquering fear, doubt, hunger, and many menacing ogres as they attempt to return home. But it is perhaps Warigia's unexpected adventure that will be most challenging of all. Blending folklore, mythology, and allegory, Ngugi Wathiongo, I think I did it better that time, chronicles the adventures of Gikuyu and Mumbai and how their brave daughters became the matriarchs of the Gikuyu clans in stunning verse with all the epic elements of danger, humor, and suspense. That sounds like something I've never read before, but it also kind of feels a bit like mythological. It feels like mythology, which I think it actually might be. I'm not sure if it's like a part of the actual mythology of the Gikuyu clans. I'm sure it'll say like in an author's note or something in the book, but yeah, I really want to check that one out. I think it's going to be just something different for me, something that I've never experienced before. So that was it. I have no idea how long this video is, but I'm guessing it's not short. But that's okay, because it was a lot of fun. I hope you had fun as well. Let me know in the comments if any of these sounds like books that you'd be interested in reading as well. If you like my content, then subscribe. Stick around. I would love to have you. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you.